Let's get weird into it. Number 9. The Squeaky Alibi. Imagine you're a kid again. Your hand is still sticky from the forbidden cookie you just inhaled. Your mom walks in, looks at the empty jar, and hits you with the classic laser beam stare of parental omniscience. "Did you eat the last cookie?" she asks. You open your mouth to deliver a performance worthy of an Oscar, a denial so profound it could rewrite history. But instead of a smooth, convincing no, what comes out is a high-pitched squeak, like a mouse being stepped on. This is your body's first and most hilarious act of betrayal. When you lie, your brain, bless its terrified little heart, often triggers a stress response. This is the good old fight or flight system, the same one that would help you run from a saber-toothed tiger, or, in this case, a mildly disappointed parent. This response floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol, which causes muscles all over your body to tense up. And guess what has tiny, delicate muscles? Your vocal cords. When those laryngeal muscles constrict, they stretch your vocal cords tighter. Think of it like a guitar string. A loose, relaxed string makes a low sound. Tighten it, and the pitch goes way up. So, as you're trying to project an aura of cool, casual innocence, your vocal cords are ratcheting themselves into the stratosphere. Your voice doesn't just get a little higher. It can crack, wobble, and shoot up an entire octave without your permission. Your brain is trying to sell a lie, but your voice is singing a panicked, high-pitched ballad of your guilt for everyone to hear. It's less of a poker face and more of a poker squeak. Number 8. Verbal molasses. There's a common misconception that liars talk fast, spewing a waterfall of words to overwhelm you. And while that can happen, it's far more common for a liar's speech to suddenly feel like it's wading through a pool of invisible jello. They slow down. This isn't because they're suddenly trying to be more thoughtful or dramatic. It's because their brain is melting. Lying is an incredibly resource-intensive activity for your prefrontal cortex. It's not just one job, it's 4. First, you have to suppress the truth. Second, you have to invent the lie. Third, you have to perform the lie convincingly. And fourth, you have to monitor the other person's reaction to see if they're buying your garbage story. This is the mental equivalent of juggling flaming chainsaws while reciting the alphabet backward and solving a Rubik's Cube. Your brain's processing power, which is usually dedicated to fluid conversation, is suddenly being rerouted to the lie factory department. The result? A massive system lag. Your mouth is ready to go, but the words are stuck in a production bottleneck. The sentences come out slower, more deliberate, not because you're choosing your words carefully, but because your brain is buffering. It's desperately trying to generate the next line of code for your fake reality, and the whole system slows to a crawl. You're not being contemplative. You're a computer from 1998 trying to load a 4K video. Number 7. The Uhm-brella of Lies. So, where were you last night? The question hangs in the air. Your brain frantically searches its database for the elaborate yet completely fictional story you prepared. But there's a gap between the question and the fully rendered lie. To fill that terrifying silence, you deploy the verbal equivalent of packing peanuts. Like, and, you know. These little words, known as speech disfluencies or fillers, are the sound of your brain stalling for time. They're not just nervous tics, they are tactical placeholders. While your mouth is making these meaningless noises, your brain is in full-blown crisis mode. A tiny panicked manager in your head is screaming, "He needs the alibi. Gary in fabrication is still working on the part about the sick aunt. Buy us a few seconds. Just say, again, but with feeling." Think of it like this. Telling the truth is like reading from a book that's already been written. The story is there. The words flow easily. Lying is like being forced to write the book, edit it, and perform a dramatic reading of it all at the same time. The ums and uhs are the moments you have to dip your quill back in the ink. Under normal circumstances, we all use fillers. But when someone is lying, they often become a crutch. The cognitive load is so high that the brain can't simultaneously manage story creation and smooth delivery. So, it just spams the button, hoping to buy enough time to invent a reason why you were at a 24-hour bowling alley instead of at Dave's party. It's not a conversation. It's a filibuster against the truth. Number 6. Glitch in the Matrix. You're deep into your fabricated tale about a heroic weekend spent volunteering at a squirrel sanctuary. You're hitting your stride. The story is flowing. And then it happens. You say, "So I was feeding the squirrels. Some nuts." Or you start stuttering on a word that's never given you trouble before. These are speech errors, and they are the little cracks that appear in the facade of a lie. These glitches happen for the same reason your speech slows down: cognitive overload. Your brain is a powerful machine, but when it's dedicating 90% of its RAM to running the Deception.X program, other background processes start to fail. Motor control for speech, which is normally seamless and automatic, starts to sputter. It's like when your phone has too many apps open and the keyboard starts lagging, and suddenly you're typing gibberish. That's your mouth. Slips of the tongue, or Freudian slips, are particularly damning. Your brain is so focused on suppressing the actual story. You were binge-watching a reality show all weekend, that pieces of the truth can accidentally leak out in distorted forms. Stuttering and stammering are the verbal equivalent of a system crash. The speech production program has encountered a fatal error and needs to reboot. The liar's brain is a bad actor who not only has to write their own script on the fly, but also has to read it from a teleprompter that is constantly flickering and showing error messages. Basically, your mouth is having a series of tiny, embarrassing strokes in honor of your dishonesty. Number 5. The Stranglehold. Listen closely to someone you suspect is being less than truthful. Beyond the words themselves, you might hear a change in the very quality of their voice. It might sound tight, strained, or raspy, as if they're speaking through a layer of gravel. This isn't because they're suddenly coming down with a cold. It's because their lie is literally choking them. This goes back to the body's stress response. When you lie, the autonomic nervous system lights up, tensing muscles not just in your vocal cords, which raises the pitch, but also in your throat, neck, and jaw. This physical clamping down creates what's called vocal tension. The sound is physically being squeezed on its way out. The voice that emerges sounds forced, like someone trying to talk while lifting a piano. There's an audible effort behind the words. This tension also dries out your mucous membranes. The same fight-or-flight response that gets your heart pounding also tells your body, hey, saliva production is not a priority right now. We might have to fight a bear. This results in a dry mouth and throat, which is why liars often clear their throats, cough, or suddenly need a sip of water. The voice becomes raspy and strained because the machinery that produces it is literally lacking lubrication. So, if someone's story sounds a little hard to swallow, listen to see if it also sounds like it was physically hard for them to say. Their own anatomy is putting their alibi in a chokehold. Number 4. Sudden onset muteness. Sometimes, the most telling sound a liar makes is no sound at all. We're talking about pauses. Not the thoughtful, dramatic pauses an orator uses to make a point, but the awkward, slightly too long silences that scream, "My brain just crashed. Please stand by." When you ask a simple question that should have a ready answer, "What did you have for breakfast?" and the person responds with a 2-second bout of dead air, something is wrong. That silence is a processing delay. If they were telling the truth, their brain would access the breakfast file and report its contents. Cereal. The whole process takes a fraction of a second, but if they're lying, the brain has to perform a complex series of operations. Receive the query, ignore the breakfast file, open the Create a Plausible Breakfast program, evaluate options, pancakes, too elaborate, toast, too simple, select oatmeal, and then send that information to the mouth. That entire sequence takes time. The resulting pause is the sound of a frantic internal negotiation. These hesitations often occur right before the lie is delivered, a moment of silence as the fabrication is being loaded into the launch bay. It's a dead giveaway, because it violates the normal rhythm of conversation. It's the verbal equivalent of a deer in the headlights. The brain freezes, caught between the impulse to tell the truth and the immense effort required to construct a lie. The silence isn't empty. It's filled with the furious, silent whirring of a brain working against itself. Number 3. The volume knob wobble. Your voice's volume is like a subconscious emotional indicator. When we're confident in telling the truth, we tend to speak at a steady, normal volume. But when the lie manufacturing plant in your brain goes into overtime, the person in charge of the master volume knob starts having a panic attack. The volume can suddenly drop or surge without any logical reason. A sudden drop in volume, sometimes to a near whisper, is an unconscious attempt to distance oneself from the lie. It's a primal, almost childlike instinct. If I say the bad thing quietly, maybe it's not as real. It's as if the speaker is trying to physically soften the blow of their own deception, making the lie smaller and less significant by wrapping it in a lower decibel level. It's the vocal equivalent of trying to hide by scrunching down in your chair. On the other end of the spectrum, a person might suddenly get louder. This is an overcompensation, an attempt to sell the lie through sheer force of will. The brain's logic is, This story is weak, but if I say it with the conviction of a drill sergeant, maybe they'll be too intimidated to question it. It's a bluff, using volume to create a facade of confidence that the speaker absolutely does not feel. The volume knob is wobbling because the liar is no longer in control. Their emotional state is so turbulent that it's overriding the normal, steady modulation of their voice, creating an auditory roller coaster of deception. Number 2. The Anti-Pinocchio Effect. Everyone knows the story of Pinocchio, the wooden puppet whose nose grew every time he told a lie. It's a charming, albeit physically impossible metaphor for deception. But in the real world, the most telling physical sign of a lie isn't in the nose, it's in the mouth. And it's not about growth, but about shrinkage. Specifically, the shrinkage of your saliva supply. We've touched on this, but it deserves its own spot. When your sympathetic nervous system kicks into high gear during a lie, it executes a process called resource reallocation. It decides which bodily functions are essential for immediate survival, like increased heart rate and muscle tension, and which are non-essential luxuries, like digestion and saliva production. Your body basically decides that creating spit is a peacetime activity, and right now, you are at war with the truth. The result is a mouth that feels like it's been stuffed with cotton balls. This leads to a cascade of audible side effects. The liar might start making little smacking or clicking sounds with their mouth as they try to generate moisture. They'll need to swallow more frequently. Their voice might take on a dry, sticky quality. It's the opposite of Pinocchio's curse. Instead of a growing nose, the liar gets a shrinking oasis in their mouth. So, while you're watching for a growing nose, you should really be listening for the subtle, desperate sounds of a mouth turning into the Sahara Desert. Number 1. The over-explainer's symphony. This is where it all comes together. A liar often feels that their core lie, "I was not at the casino," is too thin and fragile to stand on its own. So they feel compelled to build an entire fortress of unnecessary details around it. They won't just say they were at the library. They'll tell you they were at the library, in the nonfiction aisle, looking for a book on 18th century naval history, and they'll describe the weird pattern on the carpet and the odd cough of the librarian. The content of the lie is an over-elaboration, and the voice delivering it becomes a strange symphony of tells. Because the brain is so intensely focused on remembering and reciting this prefabricated script of details, it forgets to add normal human intonation. The delivery can become monotonous and robotic, like an automated message. The normal ups and downs, the emotional color of speech, just vanishes. The speaker isn't communicating, they are data dumping. Alternatively, the delivery can become overly dramatic and sing-songy. This is another form of overcompensation. The liar knows the story is fake, so they try to inject artificial emotion and emphasis into their voice to make it sound more real. They'll put stress on weird words. And the librarian had the most peculiar cardigan on. The cadence is all wrong. It's a performance, and a bad one at that. They're so focused on the what of the lie that the how becomes a bizarre, unnatural parody of normal speech. It's the final desperate act of a brain that has become a bad writer, a bad actor, and a bad director, all at the same time. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.